The tragedy that struck the Samsu family in 1977 was one that would shake the nation. Robin Samsu, a bright and cheerful 12-year-old girl from Huntington Beach, California, disappeared one fateful summer afternoon. What began as an innocent day at the beach quickly descended into a nightmare when Robin was abducted. Her body was discovered days later in the hills of Sierra Madre, brutally assaulted and murdered. The case sent shockwaves through the community, and soon, investigators began to piece together an unthinkable truth. Robin's killer wasn't a first-time offender, but a notorious criminal who had eluded justice for years. Rodney Alcala, an aspiring photographer with a chilling history, had already left a trail of destruction across the country. His handsome, charismatic facade masked the depravity that lurked beneath. Alcala's violent spree spanned over a decade, and with every crime, his methods grew more sinister. Chapter 1. The Dark Past of Rodney Alcala. Alcala's criminal career began long before Robin's murder. In 1968, a shocking incident would serve as a preview of his brutality. Tali Shapiro, an innocent 8-year-old girl, was walking to school when Alcala lured her into his car. Tali had no idea that her trusting nature would lead her to a near-fatal encounter. Once inside his Hollywood apartment, Alcala's violence erupted. He brutally assaulted Tali, leaving her for dead. Miraculously, a passerby noticed something was amiss and called the police. When officers arrived, they found Tali unconscious but alive, her small body beaten and violated. Alcala fled the scene, escaping capture, and went on the run, leading a life of deception as he continued to prey on vulnerable women and children. Though Tali survived, Alcala's reign of terror was far from over. Years later, as Tali struggled to recover from the trauma of her assault, Alcala continued to slip through the cracks of the justice system, reinventing himself with each passing day. His ability to evade capture wasn't just a testament to his cunning, it was a dark reflection of a system that couldn't keep up with the horrors unfolding. Chapter 2. The Chilling Connection. Years passed before the horrifying reality of Robin's murder would be connected to Alcala. After the discovery of her body, investigators zeroed in on the peculiar circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Eyewitness accounts from the day of her kidnapping described a man in his 30s approaching Robin, offering her a ride. That man was later identified as Rodney Alcala. Evidence began to mount. Jewelry belonging to Robin was found in Alcala's possession, along with a disturbing collection of photographs. Hundreds of photos of young girls and women were discovered in Alcala's belongings, many of whom have never been identified. These images, taken by Alcala under the guise of photography, were the gruesome souvenirs of a predator who thrived in the shadows. Alcala was arrested in connection with Robin's murder and brought to trial. Despite overwhelming evidence, including witness testimonies and forensic findings, Alcala's legal maneuverings saw him evade final justice. Twice, he was sentenced to death for Robin's murder, and twice, those convictions were overturned due to technicalities. Each time he slipped through the cracks, Alcala's confidence grew, leaving the Samsu family and countless others in unbearable agony. With every overturned conviction, the families of the victims relived their worst nightmares, haunted by the knowledge that Alcala, a remorseless killer, was still out there. Chapter 3. The Heartbreaking Toll on Families. For the Samsu family, the trial was nothing short of devastating. Robin's mother, devastated by the loss of her daughter, was forced to relive the horrors of her murder over and over again. Each courtroom proceeding and each legal battle brought with it a new wave of anguish. How could the system allow such a monster to walk free time and again? But Robin was not the only victim. During this time, more victims began to surface. Authorities linked Alcala to other unsolved murders, painting an even darker portrait of the man who seemed untouchable. investigators now believe Alcala was responsible for the deaths of at least 8 women, though some suspect his victim count may be much higher. The fact that Alcala continued to evade justice for so long was a testament to his manipulative nature and the shortcomings of a system ill-prepared to handle such a cunning criminal. Chapter 4. The Shocking Twist. The story took an extraordinary turn in 2010. After years of hiding from the trauma, the girl who had barely survived Alcala's attack, Tali Shapiro, re-emerged, this time as a grown woman determined to see justice done. Tali's return to the public eye was a testament to her incredible strength and resilience. She had spent years living with the scars of that horrific day in 1968, but now, as a woman, she was ready to confront her attacker in court. When she learned that the man who had tried to kill her had continued his killing spree, culminating in Robin's death and many others, she knew she couldn't remain silent. With Tali's powerful testimony, Alcala's fate was finally sealed. The court heard, in excruciating detail, the account of Tali's survival and the brutal attack that nearly took her life. Her courage and strength in confronting her attacker brought justice not only for her, but also for Robin and the countless other victims Alcala had targeted. Chapter 5. The Final Reckoning. With this strong evidence, Rodney Alcala was finally sentenced to death once more in 2010. This time, the verdict stuck. The courtroom was filled with a palpable sense of relief as Tali Shapiro, the once terrified little girl, and Robin's grieving family watched as justice was finally served. Alcala's heinous crimes were laid bare for the world to see, and his manipulative charm could no longer shield him from the consequences of his actions. However, the closure was bittersweet. While the families of the victims could take solace in the fact that Alcala would never hurt anyone again, the scars he left behind would never fully heal. Alcala's death in 2021 marked the end of one of the most notorious killing sprees in American history. But for those who survived his brutality, the trauma endures. The loss of innocent lives, the shattered families, and the survivors who will carry their scars forever are the true costs of Rodney Alcala's reign of terror. His death, while offering some closure, does not erase the pain. The haunting question remains: how many more victims could there be? How many more lives were touched by the evil of this man, whose charm and deceit allowed him to prey on the vulnerable for so long? Even today, those images remain accessible to the public, with the hope that more victims might be identified. For every known victim, there may be others whose stories have yet to be told.